Hi, it's me again. I created this video in response to the many requests that I received inquiring about the advantages and disadvantages of being a dual citizen. Why can one just not go to the Philippines and retire there and maybe as a tourist or as a former Filipino citizen who gave up their citizenship and does not want to go through a dual citizenship process? Let me explain the difference between the two, or what the advantages are of being a dual citizen. Hang loose. I created a chart to explain the difference between the two. There are more advantages than there are disadvantages, and you have to evaluate each of the advantages and disadvantages before you decide to do so. But in many cases, it's much more favorable to be a dual citizen. So here goes. Let's start with the discussion of the advantages and disadvantages of Philippine dual citizenship. And we'll begin by talking about the disadvantages because there are so few of them. The first one is you may lose all support that the other country provides you in case of an emergency, be it man-made, natural, or even your fault. It could rather be complicated. You'll have to evaluate the chance of this happening. An example of this is, let's say you committed a crime and the Philippines imprisoned you. Usually the United States will interfere for being a U.S. citizen, but if you are also a Philippine citizen, they're not going to touch you because you're also a Filipino citizen. You're part of that system. So this is something you need to evaluate carefully. For example, in case there is war and they're going to evacuate American citizens, they may not be able to evacuate you because you're also a Filipino citizen. So you have to have some kind of escape route. Now, that is not my concern because I don't think we're going to have war, not in my lifetime anyway. You will not be able to hold public office in both countries if you plan to go into politics. If you have no plans to go into politics, this is a non-event. And if there is mandatory military service, you could be drafted or even forced to fight if you are age eligible. Well, if you're retiring in the Philippines, I assume you'll no longer qualify to be drafted, so I wouldn't worry about this either. Now let's look at the advantages. You have the right of each country's citizen. As a U.S. citizen, you right to all the rights of a U.S. citizen, and the same thing with the Philippine citizenship. You will have the rights of all Filipino citizens. As a Philippine citizen or a dual citizen, you can own land in the Philippines. The others, if you are a U.S. citizen and not a Philippine citizen, you are not allowed to own land. You can only buy a condominium because in a condominium, you are buying stock in the condominium. It's the condominium that owns the land. So that's one important advantage of being a dual citizen. Or here's another important advantage. You have the benefits afforded to seniors in the Philippines, such as free PhilHealth, medical insurance, 20% discount on restaurants, medicines, domestic airfares, in addition to exemption from VAT. I believe hotels, I'm not sure, but I believe you also get the discount on hotels. And if there is a 12% or no, I think it's 12%. 12% VAT and 20% discount. That's almost like a 30% combined blended rate, about 30%, almost one-third discount on those items, meaning restaurants, medicine, domestic airfare, and the VAT exemption. You also get priority service. I was applying for a driver's license or trying to convert my U.S. license into a U.S. driver's license to a Philippine license. And a gentleman approached me and said, "Sir," no, he said, "Tatay, would you like to come and join me, please?" And then he took me all the way inside and processed me. And I was looking back and I was looking at the long lines and I was able to see that. On grocery stores, they may have a special seat for senior citizens. Something similar to that. You will get all kinds of priority service, which is very, very impressive. I don't even see that kind of treatment on senior citizens in the United States. You will have the right to vote in both countries, and you can choose which passport to use. For example, if you're in the Philippines and you want to go to Cuba, well, if you use your U.S. passport, you will not be allowed in Cuba. But if you use Philippine passport, you will be allowed in Cuba. So in that case, you can use the Philippine passport. If you only have a U.S. passport, there is no way you can go to Cuba. Now, that's my understanding, because before it was prohibited, then Obama changed that, and you can now travel. And if I'm not mistaken, that was reversed again by President Trump. If I am wrong and you are now allowed, then forget I said that. At least that example anyway. You can enter countries requiring that requires visa. For example, Canada. If you are only a Philippine citizen, you will have to have a visa to go to Canada. But as a U.S. citizen, if you're traveling on U.S. passport, you don't need any visa to go to Canada. And there could be some similarities in other countries as well. As a Philippine citizen or dual citizen, you have unlimited time to stay in the Philippines. You can stay there forever if you want. Non-citizens are only limited to 90 days and 1 year if you are married to a Filipino and you are not a citizen. You'll be given 1 year. You have a second passport if you lose one or if it expires. However, you will always need to present the entering passport when leaving the country that checks passport at departure. Well, very simply, just don't lose your passport, okay? And lastly, normally you will be subject to income tax in both countries. Now, Philippines changed this law. Dual citizens are now taxed only on Philippine source income. Pension or income earned outside the Philippines is not taxed, although you continue to pay U.S. taxes. Now, this is one reason I sort of left my Philippine citizenship way back when, from over 40 years ago. I said, gee, why do I have to file? I was renewing my passport, and they say, well, you have to file your tax return and pay the Philippine tax. I said, my money is coming from the U.S. I'm not doing anything in the Philippines. Why should I pay taxes in the Philippines? So I said, the heck with it. I have just forgone my Philippine passport and gave up my Philippine citizenship. Well, Philippines is not being nice by doing this. What Philippines is trying to do is they're trying to attract Filipinos to come back to the Philippines. That's balikbayan. And by doing so, they're getting the dollars into the country, which is a very wise move for the Philippines. So Philippines changed the law by not requiring you to pay any taxes on earnings made out of the Philippine island. So you only pay tax if you make money within the Philippines.
Okay, there you have it. Now it's up for you to decide, after evaluating those benefits of being a dual citizen, whether or not you want to continue to be or to apply for a dual citizenship. If you have any further questions, or if you like me to provide you information in specific areas, just send me a message and I'll be glad to respond to you. For you to get the benefit of a prompt notification on my new videos, please do subscribe. I will appreciate that. Thank you so much.